Hi, everybody. We are the Non-Prophets. This show is brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin. I'm your host, Jeff D. My co-hosts are Vic Farrow. Excuse me.
All right, now.
Sorry about that.
You got it right in rehearsal.
I see Martin over in the chat room there. I'm sure he got a little
more.
Vic Farrow and Mary McManamee. I got your name right.
You got it.
And our producer, madly running around making sure everything works, is Russell Glasser.
Hello.
Today's opening music was Sink by King Missile. Can we get some kind of confirmation that we're getting our sound levels properly? Okay, great.
Martin just said, Vic Wagner.
He's a hybrid.
Oh, boy.
Right.
Today's music was Sink by King Missile. If you think religion already gives you a sinking feeling, wait till you hear what we've got for you in today's show. We're live February 2, 2002. The Atheist Community of Austin is a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings in Austin, Texas, every Sunday morning at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop at 307 West 5th Street at 10:30 a.m., except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at 11 a.m. in the Longhorn Room of Fur's Cafeteria in North Cross Mall. And, Mary, you set up the speaker for tomorrow, right?
Yes. That's right.
So would you care to do the announcement of that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. It's going to be, for those folks who haven't heard yet, tomorrow at First Cafeteria, 11 o'clock is when we get started. That's when the cafeteria opens. Our guest speaker will be UT English professor John Rumrich, and he will be discussing the epic, tragic poem Samson Agonistes. So please come. It'll be a great speech.
Cool. ACA board meetings take place at 10, right before the regular meeting on the second Sunday of every month. The next one will be on February 10. The Godless Gamers meet every Monday night at 7 p.m. at my place. The ACA Happy Hour is at Antonio's near Highway 35 and 183, again in Austin, Texas, every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. For more information, you can call our voicemail at area code 512-371-2911 or visit our website, www.atheist-community.org. National Atheist Ombuds. Any instances of slurs, defamation, or discrimination against atheists or other non-believers in the U.S. media can be reported to the National Atheist Ombuds by emailing ombuds@atheism.org. Incidents will be reported to participating national and local non-theist organizations who have agreed to distribute press releases regarding the reported subject matter. This should be the last announcement of the International Rationalist Conference taking place in New Delhi, India, February 8 to 12. Boy, if you haven't got your tickets in order for that yet...
You're not going.
You're probably not going, but for correspondence about that, should be addressed to conference@rationalistinternational.net, and more information can be found at www.rationalistinternational.net. There will be a Nation Evolution debate on February 15 at 6:30 p.m. on the UT campus in UTC 2.112A. Tickets are $5. The event was organized by members of Helping Austin Area Schools, a registered student organization at the University of Texas at Austin, with concerns about the quality of science education in our public schools. They are expecting mostly Christians in the audience and have therefore extended a special invitation to non-believers. For information on getting tickets, email Doug Keller. His address is pogie@mail.utexas.edu. That's POUGIE @mail.utexas.edu. The Freethinkers and Atheists of Virginia is a new atheist group forming. For more information, go to www.atheistdominion.org. They meet at the Virginia Beach Library at 4100 Virginia Beach Boulevard between Independence Boulevard and Rosemont Road. Their next meeting will be on February 16 from 1 to 3 p.m. in Meeting Room B. Eat More Christians t-shirts are available through Cafe Press. The full URL is www.cafepress.com/nogods. Check out these fine, amusing t-shirts, poking a little fun at the Chick-fil-A fast food chain. All proceeds from the sales of those shirts, and there's also mouse pads and mugs, I think, but I haven't actually been there in a while to check.
You want to address one more time?
That is, Russell, that is www.cafepress.com. www.ccpg.org/nogods. All proceeds will go to the running of this fine program. Who wants to do news?
Well, we can go either way. I haven't.
Can you now?
I have an update on the woman mayor from Inglis, Florida. I hope that's pronounced English.
That's the lady that nailed the proclamations, warning
four corners of the city, saying Satan is no longer wanted in this city.
Right, and various groups have been up in arms about that.
Yeah. Well, the update is, we all know that goofy thing happened, but the update is that there is a city ordinance against using town letterhead or city letterhead for a personal opinion, and her proclamation is on city letterhead. So apparently, as long as it's promoting Jesus, it's not really violating the law.
Well, wait a minute. I mean, are there people saying here is the rule that she broke and using that to try to get her to stop? And clearly, she has no concern over the city ordinances or the Constitution of the United States.
Exactly, and that seems to be a fitting pattern with believers. Because the other day, for about the fourth or fifth time, walking through the street, I see "Trust Jesus" written in a black marker on the wall. Now, I guess it's because it's Jesus. It's not really vandalism. Absolutely, completely disrespect the city ordinance and the law and the Constitution to promote your religion. And according to the Florida director of ACLU, Howard Simon, he said, quote, "This is the most extreme intrusion into religion by a public official that I have seen in my 27 years as director of the ACLU." We're going to get into some other stories about religious criminals.
Yes, we are.
I just wanted to update you on that story that I knew about, that she had actually, there is an actual violation here that you can show. And she, apparently doesn't care. Because, Satan is no longer in her city.
It's not a personal opinion. Everybody knows about Jesus.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
I was listening to Bill Hicks on the way over here, but he said, well, the Satan worshipping families are the ones that have the good albums. I don't know, just take with that what you will.
Apparently the White House plans to buy 2 commercials during the Super Bowl at a cost of $1.6 million each.
Huh?
The commercial message will claim that those who are involved in the illicit drug trade are helping terrorists spread evil around the world. $1.6 million is what the White House is going to spend. Now, where do you think they got that money from?
Us.
Taxes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the same Republicans who are barking about the government being too big and spending too much is going to spend it's going to be $3.2 million.
And so essentially they're linking, they're trying to work a patriotism message into the war on drugs.
If you watched
it is un-American to take drugs.
If you had watched the presidential address, you would have realized that we are slipping slowly back into the McCarthy. President Bush tied everything about the entire country to the war on terrorism. He just looped it all around to patriotism and this.
And God.
And God. Well, he only mentioned God one time, but still, there was this continuous addressing of the war on terrorism and how we should treat our economic problems with the same fervor that we were fighting the war on terrorism. And I'm paraphrasing, but $3.2 million to tell people that...
Wait a minute. If we were addressing our economic problems with the same fervor that we're applying to the war on terrorism...
we wouldn't have...
the Enron board of directors would be in a concentration camp in Cuba.
Right, exactly. But, I'm having a discussion with someone now, as I personally do not believe that you can prosecute big money corporations in a Republican administration. I don't think they're going to see a day in jail.
Yeah, because guess who's on the board of directors? Phil Graham's wife, Wendy Graham.
Wendy Graham, yeah.
They're not going to touch her.
No, And she was the independent auditor. Supposed to be protecting the interest of the investors.
Good grief.
It just gets...
Folks, my wife brought up this point the other day. She deals with a lot of young people in her business and interacts with them socially and stuff as a side effect of her work. And And she's a rationalist and an atheist, and she is always encountering kids saying these crazy things to her, right? And she tries to set them straight. And she gets this, like, backlash that, oh, you're so down, you're so negative, you're so hostile.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, we don't want to be down, negative, or hostile. We just want to live our lives, be happy, and, get along. And that is what we want. It is not our fault that the managing of our nation has fallen into the hands of a bunch of fundamentalist assholes. It is not our fault.
Oh, my.
Is it? To be positive now, you got to shut up about things that are serious problems in your own country.
That has become, like I said, we're slipping back into the McCarthy era. Now it is unpatriotic to criticize the president or the administration or the war in Afghanistan or any other thing that the Republicans are doing at the time, because now if you're criticizing these people, you're just being unpatriotic. I mean, come on, people. We got past this in the 50s. All right,
I am patriotic, and you know how I'm patriotic?
Uh-huh.
I care about what this country is really supposed to be about.
Yes,
that is the basis of my patriotism. And when we get dickweeds playing the government to their advantage and manipulating people with this fake trumped up patriotism and fake trumped up theology, then I'm going to speak out. And that's not negative, that's positive. I am defending something.
And part of
we all are.
Part of that new security package that was railroaded through Congress and only received one opposing vote is starting to take effect now. You have now a new fee on your airline tickets that is to help pay for these, literally draconian measures that are being taken in the name of security. And I would remind the Republicans and the Democrats who supported this of the words of Benjamin Franklin, that those who would trade a little freedom for a little security will lose both and deserve neither.
Was that Ben Franklin?
That's Ben Franklin.
Okay.
Sure it is.
Mm-hmm.
What else you got?
On the comedy side of wacky Republicans, in July of 1986, the Meese Commission, headed by Attorney General Edwin Meese, released a 2-volume, 1,960-page report on the American pornography problem. Photographs of Meese holding up the report in the Great Hall of Justice Department building in Washington, D.C. are famous. They are famous because the photographers taking those photos scrambled to ensure that the spirit of justice breast was prevalent behind Meese's head. I don't know if this was actually something they did on purpose or it was in the background.
Right. They got big statues there.
Big statues.
They're in the traditional Greek garb, which involves one breast being exposed.
There. The spirit of justice is a large aluminum statue of a woman with her hands raised above her head. She's dressed in a toga-like cloth that covers the body except for one breast. There is a male statue near it, which has a cloth wrapped around, but the genitalia is not exposed. Now, here's the funny part. The new Attorney General, John Ashcroft, whose own state would rather vote for a dead man than have him as governor, has now spent $8,000 of taxpayers' money to have big blue curtains so they can cover up this statue during the press conferences. Because, we don't want anybody on TV seeing a big aluminum breast.
No titties.
No aluminum titties in the White House, all right? Or in the Justice Building. Come on, it's a statue. If John Ashcroft gets a hard-on by seeing an aluminum titty on a statue, that's his problem, not the American people's, all right? I'm sorry. The same Republican government that talks about the government being too big and spending too much is just flat out hypocritical.
Can I go out on a limb here and say that there's that what is wrong with pornography has nothing to do with naked bodies and has nothing particularly to do with naked bodies having sex?
No.
What's wrong with pornography is its connection to organized crime. It's abuse of women, right? Mm-hmm. What's wrong with it are the things that our society makes wrong with it by marginalizing it and making it this underground, secret, dark, evil thing.
Yeah, well, the day before yesterday, I would have argued about the evils of pornography, but last night I saw a little documentary entitled Sex, which is the Annabelle Chong story.
Uh-huh.
That was... talk about bursting the bubble of my illusions about the porn industry. That was the saddest movie I have ever seen. That poor girl is seriously emotionally disturbed. And for anybody who doesn't know who Annabelle Chong is, she was the first one to do the largest gangbang. She had sex with 251 men in 10 hours. And they filmed it.
A local radio show was doing prank calls with fake characters trying to get on their show.
Oh, yeah. And I thought, okay, cool. I'm a man. I think with my penis sometimes. But after that show last night, I just had a whole new outlook on the entire porn industry. It is really sleazy as they make it out
horrible.
to be.
It's horrible. But it
is that way because it's marginalized and,
yeah, I mean, people have sex all the time without turning into horrible people, without going insane, without losing their self-respect.
Right.
You lose your self-respect when what you're doing is looked upon by everybody else in society as some kind of horrible, nasty thing. And when you get taken advantage of by sleazy people who are able to make money at that because our society looks at it as a horrible, nasty thing.
But the same people who are in public will say that, this pornography is such a nasty thing, are likely some of the same people who bought the 40 million copies of that gangbang. That sold an enormous amount of
I have a statistic here that I'm going to look up while we move on to the next news story.
Okay. I will go into something I did last Saturday. After the show, I went to a place here in Austin called the Burger Center where the rally called The People Have the Power was going on with singers such as Jackson Browne and Patti Smith. But the main speaker of that was Ralph Nader, who ran for the presidential election last year, ran as the Green Party's candidate, although he is not a member of the Green Party, which is kind of odd. But there was several good speeches by various people, but Nader's was the one that stood out. He gave a very powerful speech about, tomorrow is the Super Bowl. And lots of people are going to be sitting at home watching a football game. They're going to spend about 3 hours of their life, 3 or 4 hours of their life watching a football game. And he equated that to about what he called 500 million citizen hours. That's a lot of time. And if you imagine taking those same 3 hours out of 1 year and applying that towards doing something to benefit your own country, you have 500 million citizen hours of work applied to correcting some of the problems that we have going on here. And President Bush's speech did touch on a little bit of, communities getting involved. He has a different approach on it, of course, but think about what could be done with 500 citizen hours of people spending their time, taking the time to actually promote some of the more progressive ideas that need to be, think about national health care. The only industrialized country in the entire world without a national health care, the United States. Things like this could be corrected. And I know there's a big controversy over health care. That the buzzword is socialized medicine, which is a nasty attempt to equate doing something that needs to be done with communism, because, we have the big Red Scare. Since we're back to the McCarthy era, we're going to bring back the McCarthyism thing. He also made a very funny comparison of what is it with Americans and their willingness to accept what gets passed as network news. You go and watch the news. So watch the news sometime. Look at the enormous amount of time spent on the weather. The big Doppler radar screen with the big picture going down. He was just elaborating on this entire thing, that we spend an enormous amount of time talking about the weather, and very little actual news gets on the news. You don't see things that are going on. You don't see stories that are relevant. You have the pet story and the human interest story, and then you have the local crime, which is one or two stories.
And when they do news, it's just like, here's what happened, right?
Yeah,
very surface level, no depth, no deep, background investigation on this stuff, no analysis.
And an abundant amount of time spent chit-chatting, this contrived chit-chat between the two anchor persons, which I completely detest. Shut up and do the news, You don't need to talk to each other. You should have done that before the show started. But the reason they can get away with this and do it in this commercialized, prissy, cleaned up news where, nothing really is actually said, because that's what people will accept. We're not complaining. There's, what was the last count? 200 some odd million people in the United States, and you don't get any complaints about this stuff from the vast majority of the people. And so that's what happens. That's what you get. You don't speak out, you don't get anything.
Right.
So the question that Nader was asking is, why do we tolerate this mediocre performance? And I didn't hear anybody in the audience stand up with an answer. So
I think it's because, speaking for me personally, it's not clear what exactly I can do about it.
Probably not much, but you as an individual, not much. But us as a collective,
right, have
a lot bigger voice than, if you're getting an enormous amount of complaints from the population and people stop watching the damn TV, I can guarantee you that they'll start changing what they do, because their ratings, their income depends on people watching.
Yeah.
And but the gist of Ralph Nader's speech was that it was time to get off the couch, turn off the TV, and get to work. And you didn't have to spend an enormous amount of time doing everything and anything. It was 4 hours of your life in 1 year. The same amount of time you spend watching a football game. And you could get a lot more accomplished. It was apathy kills democracy. We're going to sit on our asses and we're going to just watch what's going on in Washington with this attitude that, well, ain't nothing I can do about it. Nothing will happen. Nothing will change. It's the whole point of the thing was to try to get people to build coalitions. Start talking to your neighbors. Start talking to the groups that you're involved with. Get those groups to talk to other groups.
Speaking of which, the Atheist Community of Austin had a booth there, right?
We had a booth there. I was standing behind it.
And how did we do?
We had an enormous amount of people who came by and were really happy to see us. A couple people stopped by and made the comment that they didn't know we existed. As we had a lot of buttons and bumper stickers that we've had forever. We sold a bunch of those. We got rid of almost the entire collection. But we did have a lot of people sign up on our mailing list to get information. And people were asking, we gave out brochures and business cards. And so we'll see if that has an effect on our membership or not, or if we have contact information off of that. We had a really good positive turnout, and a lot of people spoke, and I didn't hear not one negative comment. I did have one Muslim fella. It was obviously Muslim. He didn't identify himself as such, but it was pretty obvious. And he went on to this questioning about somebody wrote a book claiming that the Quran has described embryology all throughout it, thousands of years before doctors ever did it, which I've heard this story before. However, I know extremely little about Islam.
Yeah.
And I couldn't argue with him on it. But I'm just thinking that Christians do this with the Bible. They will interpret what they want out of the text.
No, that's just Muslims doing
exactly the same thing. They're interpreting what they want to hear out of texts that were 1,000 or so years ago.
It's almost. I'm almost happy that we only have one big religion to deal with here in the U.S.
What do you mean almost?
But what I mean is, if we had two equally powerful big religions, right? If we had 35% of Americans were Christians and 35% of Americans were Muslims,
we'd be Ireland.
Then we would have to, we'd be Ireland, and we'd have to be refuting. We'd have to understand both stupid religions in order to refute them.
Well, now we'd be Ireland with nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
All right.
Scary thought.
Martin just said, if the Quran describes embryology, then why weren't they doing modern prenatal care 1,000 years ago?
Right.
Who knows?
Probably because
it's
evil or something.
Yeah.
Are you set there?
I have gone through the stuff that I had. The only other thing I brought was something that I thought was funny, but we can pass on that because we're limited with time.
Yeah, we're moving along here, and we got a lot to talk about today.
We did get covered. The stuff I was reading from with Ashcroft was from the campus paper called the Daily Texan, which we got covered in.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
We got covered in the Daily Texan, which is the University of Texas at Austin's newspaper.
Now, this was as a result of the
separation church and state rally.
Right. We had a rally on commemorating the 200th anniversary of Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists, where he coined the phrase separation of church and state. Decent turnout, 50 to 70 people by various estimates.
3 television stations. The local paper, the Austin American Statesman, was there but left before the rally started. But the Daily Texan reporter stuck around, and then later came to one of our meetings, stuck around all day. And
then went to the TV show.
And then went to the TV show and stuck around for that, and took a lot of notes, made a lot of talked to a lot of different people, and wrote a half-page story in their Focus on Religion section.
But the title
of this is Fellowship Minus the Dogma. A group gives atheists chance to make like-minded friends and find political voice.
Yeah.
And it was the gist of the story is pretty much true. They did not put our website in there, I'm sad to say. So if anybody's reading this, they didn't get
that's
information.
So
however, our internet atheistnetwork.com did get put in.
All right. Okay. I wonder if we have anybody from UT listening to the show today.
We don't know. Since we won't be at the bagel shop on this Sunday, I'm wondering if anybody's going to go like, well, they're not here because the bagel shop is mentioned. But it was a good article. I got quoted. Matter of fact, I got the last word in the article.
Somebody should get onto the bagel shop and put a notice.
I'm thinking of the same thing.
That's a darn good idea.
We'll do a bagel shop notice.
That's a good idea.
Somebody write it down, otherwise it'll get forgotten. All right. That was really a great thing. Very positive. Now there were some misquotes and some
misquotes or
inconsistencies and things, but as reporting goes, it was really pretty good.
Yeah, one of the things that I got quoted, I think he got the gist of what I was saying, whether I said it exactly in those words or not. I don't even remember, so, yeah.
I know what I could do. I could put up a Samson Agonistes poster there.
There you go.
That's it.
So they'll know exactly where we are.
I don't have to write it down now because you're going to take care of it.
So it's your turn, Mary. What do you got?
All right. Well, speaking of embryos, yeah.
When were we doing this? No.
Yeah. Basically, this is focusing on local news for a minute. The Austin City Council has decided to delay a vote on Brackenridge Hospital. And basically, the gist of the story is that our local city-run hospital, Brackenridge Hospital, has decided to form a hospital within a hospital in order to provide contraceptive and reproductive services to women.
Why would they have to do that?
Well, it's because the current city hospital is run by Seton, which is also a Catholic-run hospital. And they have a big problem with allowing reproductive services. So, basically what's happened with that is the Austin City Council on Thursday has delayed for a week taking action on a proposal to create this hospital within a hospital. And the ultimate vote to delay it was 6-1. The mayor was the only person, Gus Garcia was the only person who voted against delaying it.
And so if they had not delayed, then they would have taken a vote on it?
Apparently so.
Well.
And so, perhaps in the long run it is better to go ahead and delay it. Essentially, under the proposal, Seton would continue running all of Brackenridge except the 5th floor. The city hospital would open in July 2003 if the council approves the plan in the near future.
Right.
And women's health advocates, this is taken directly from Marianne Roser's Statesman article, the Austin American Statesman. Women's health advocates argued that if a woman has a condom failure, she should have access at Brackenridge to the emergency contraceptives administered to rape victims. Seton should not be able to interfere with such services in the part of the hospital the city would operate. And I also happen to volunteer for Safe Place, which is a merger between the Center for Battered Women and the Austin Rape Crisis Center. And I can tell you, at this time, we don't need... and I'm not speaking on behalf of Safe Place. I'm just mentioning that, that's my background. But, I've seen rape victims come to the hospital. And this is not the time to be telling them, oh, well, I'm sorry, you need to go to the 5th floor to get those services.
Right.
This is not, this is what we're talking about, when we're talking about this issue. And we're not just talking about rape victims, of course. We're talking about all women who need access to reproductive services.
This whole situation is just horrific because the city contracted with Seton to manage the hospital. Everything was fine. Suddenly, the Catholic bishops say, oh, well, we can't be having reproductive services, or certain kinds of reproductive services in facilities that we manage. And all of a sudden, they're changing the rules. They had a deal with the city. And sure, the Catholics have a right to their religious beliefs, but if they have agreed to do something that then their religious beliefs jump up and say, no, you can't do that, then the only right thing to happen is for them to back away from the deal and say, we are not going to be available to manage your hospital anymore because we can no longer comply with the original deal.
Oh,
all this nonsense about setting up
access to money? Oh, no, couldn't do that.
We'll get back. We'll have a little more to say about Catholics in a bit.
Yeah, I want to mention one other thing about, in terms of money, and what we're talking about with this, Seton operating the hospital. The city pays Seton $5.6 million annually to offset caring for the poor and uninsured. Yeah. Seton contributed $20 million in 2001 for charity care at Brackenridge and Children's Hospital, which adjoins Brackenridge and is also operated by Seton for the city. So, it sounds like that there, at this time, there doesn't seem, because St. David's was approached about taking over, I think Scott and White was also approached, and nobody else to touch it. So, I don't know.
Because Seton is given a bunch of money.
I suppose.
Seton is funding the bills. I'm sorry. Doesn't matter how much money you've got. You cannot buy your way into a constitutional violation. You cannot justify, well, we gave a lot of money, so you got our religious teachings dictate what kinds of medical services are available. Doesn't matter how much money. That's not the way that the Constitution works.
That's right.
Well, that's the way people work, though.
All right.
And money will buy your eyes in another direction. Yeah.
Blah. What else?
I just kind of wanted to mention on a little side note that, it's actually a main note as well. The Bush administration said on Thursday that states may classify a developing fetus as an unborn child eligible for government health care. States, right now, it says the plan will make a fetus eligible for health care under the State Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP, because the program is aimed at kids. It does not typically cover parents or pregnant women. States which administer CHIP would have the option of including fetuses in their programs. Doing so would make the mother eligible for prenatal and delivery care.
So why don't they just say that a pregnant mother is now eligible for it instead of going around the damn bush here? Because you know that.
No pun intended.
No more beating around the bush. I think we just beat Bush personally.
But look at what they're doing. I mean, this is
that was a joke, folks.
Yeah,
obvious. What they're doing here is that if we can surreptitiously consider the fetus as a person and give it rights as a person, then we can abolish abortion altogether.
Right.
Because now the fetus has rights. Never mind
it's all these definition games. It's the same kind of thing that they've been playing for decades, right? The Christians get their hooks into, little fringe things in our government, and they dig them in deeper and deeper and deeper, and then a few decades later they go, hey, look, we've got prayers on the floor of the Senate, so clearly we're a Christian nation. You've got your hooks into the Senate. That is not the same thing. They're trying to get their hooks
Nader
into
said about how they're like dogs running around urinating on everything.
I said that.
Oh, you did.
I said that. They're peeing on our government to make it smell like them, and when they get it to smell enough like them, then they claim that it's theirs. That's not the way the Constitution works.
And this is just a way to loophole it and get in and get what you want and enforce your religious views on the rest of the people who do not automatically follow them. If we can't convert them, we'll conquer them. And it's disgusting.
It is. And I don't think it was any accident that this announcement was timed, considering that January 22nd was the 29th anniversary of Roe versus Wade decision.
Yeah.
So
write that down too. We need to remind ourselves to ask for a proclamation from the city of Austin on the anniversary of that next year. Speaking of which, did we talk about this before on the show? We approached the city of Austin asking for a proclamation to declare January celebrate state church separation month, and then that got kind of delayed, and we got a runaround and blah blah blah. Well, better late than never. Mayor Garcia of Austin, Texas, has issued a proclamation recognizing the 200th anniversary of Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists, wherein he coined the term separation between church and state, following a request by members of the Atheist Community of Austin. We wanted January to be declared Celebrate State Church Separation Month, but there was no declaration at all until last Monday, January 28, and the wording was significantly softened from what we submitted. But hey, it's better than nothing, and I'm told that once such a declaration has been granted, it establishes a precedent that makes it easier to gain the city's cooperation the next time. The ACA is now moving ahead with an effort to get Darwin Day, February 12, officially recognized by the city of Austin as well.
I believe
Michelle submitted a request and got turned down within 2 hours.
Yes.
I have also submitted a request with different wording for the proclamation, and I haven't heard back yet. And I know Rick was talking about sending his in, and
other people
I'm
should
advising as many members of the ACA as possible to go
flood them with it. Yeah.
Anyway, the actual text of the proclamation that was issued is as follows: Be it known that, whereas the Constitution of the United States of America is the founding document upon which our nation is governed, and whereas the United States was the first among nations to adopt a secular constitution separating church and state, and whereas the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, which President Thomas Jefferson referred to as building a wall of separation between church and state. Now, therefore, I, Gus Garcia, mayor of the city of Austin, Texas, do hereby recognize January 1, 2002 as the 200th anniversary of President Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Baptists of Danbury, Connecticut.
Yeah, which says nothing. You can say, I can recognize an historical
But he did say whereas.
historical
The whereases are significant. It softened from what we wanted, but it wasn't gutted.
Recognizing a day in history is still a day in history whether you recognize it or not.
But he's saying whereas we've got to document the Constitution, and it's a secular Constitution. He says secular Constitution. That's good. And he does recognize Jefferson's reference to the First Amendment as a wall of separation. So that's all in all a very good first step.
Yeah.
We want everything, but we can go in baby steps.
I find it suspicious that it was delayed until the last day of January, though. The last couple of days.
Be suspicious, but let's just keep working on it, and we'll get more of what we want later.
Yeah.
Happy Groundhog Day, everybody, by the way. As you know, if Jesus emerges from his tomb and sees his shadow, we will get 2,000 more years of Christianity. So we're all waiting for a report on that.
Oh, no.
And that leads into what is unfortunately looking like it's going to have to be a whole new official segment of the show. Crimes by religionists. We're told all the time that religion, you need religious belief to make you behave. The kids go nuts in school with handguns, and we're all told, well, that's because we don't have the Ten Commandments in schools. That's because we don't have everybody agreeing to be Christians, blah, 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 blah. Well, if that was true, if religion really did make people better people, then you wouldn't expect to hear the kinds of stories that we're hearing in the news. I got 2 pages here of different short stories of different criminal violations by religionists. And I don't want to be negative. I don't want to do a show about, Christianity sucks. That's not what we're really here for. But somebody has to point this out. It is simply not true that Christianity makes people better. It's just not true.
And there are more than 2 pages to prove it.
Here we go.
But we'll
That's
start
just
with
for
these.
how long a period? This is just for today, right? Or yesterday?
This is... What?
These are
This
stories
is for
that all
1 week. This is
1 week.
This is since
1
our
week,
last
okay.
show.
Okay.
January 31, in a continuing expose of priest pedophilia and its cover-up, which began 3 weeks ago, the Boston Globe reported that in the past decade, the Boston Archdiocese quietly had settled child molestation claims against at least 70 priests under an extraordinary cloak of secrecy. 70 priests in 10 years, their molestation claims were paid off the church, rather than them coming to terms with what was clearly a huge problem.
And those are the ones they know about.
That's just the ones they know about. Now, some of those could have been people trying to get some money out of the church by trumping up claims. Could be. But clearly, there are definite cases, I mean, more and more all the time, coming to light of actual sexual abuses by clergy taking advantage of their position of authority to have their way with young children. Story 2, the Roman Catholic Church in Ireland. I told you we'd be getting back to the Roman Catholics, right? The Roman Catholic Church in Ireland has agreed to a landmark $110 million payment to Irish children.
How much?
$110 million to Irish children sexually abused by its clergy over decades. Sex abuse campaigners and opposition lawmakers brand the offer as inadequate. The deal late Wednesday was designed to conclude a 10-year struggle by the church in this predominantly Catholic nation to overcome predominantly Catholic. See, here we don't even have the argument that, we all need to be the same brand of Christianity, so we all share exactly the same morals, and then everything will be okie-dory. No. Catholic, it's mostly Catholics there. The vast majority of Christians in Ireland are Catholics. In the 10-year struggle by the church in that predominantly Catholic nation to overcome sex scandals going back to the 1940s. More than 20 priests, brothers, and nuns have already been convicted of molesting children. Nuns? I can't even conceive of that. With much abuse taking place in state-funded, church-run schools. State-funded, church-run schools! And that's what they want here. They want state-funded, state-funded... I can't even... These words can't even...
State-funded, church-run schools!
State-funded, church-run schools, they think, here in the United States, are going to make everybody behave better. And it's taking an offer of $110 million from the Catholic Church to fix the damage that has been done by that arrangement since the 1940s, and the people that are against it don't even say it's enough.
There was a comment from the chat room, no wonder those churches are always asking for money.
Yeah, they got to pay off these big settlements.
It's just not true, folks. Religion does not make people better. Even all agreeing to the same religion does not make these problems go away.
And I have a comment.
And it's even worse because, I'm sorry, Vic.
Go ahead.
It's even worse because they don't talk about it.
That's right.
know?
All that happens when you have one religion in charge of everything is then the authorities in the religion can hide all of the transgressions under the carpet. That is the only effect of doing that. In fact, it may be even worse. It may be that having this invisible space pixie that these people are supposed to be the authoritarian representatives of gives them an unnecessarily strong position of authority from which they can pull shit like this.
Yes. And my comment to people who tell me that I need to have God to have morality is that if that's true, how come I know a whole group of atheists just right here in Austin who not only are not committing crimes, you have this idea that if you didn't have God, if God doesn't give you morality, then all crimes are possible, anything goes. Well, there's a whole group of us just here in Austin, not committing crimes and are conscious about their behavior. And in to some degree, I would say more conscious about their behavior than your average Christian or average Muslim or any other religious nutcase.
Yeah, I'll go on the record right here. If I hear that one of my fellow atheists has committed a crime, I will turn on that atheist in an instant. This is not about hiding each other's problems. This is about solving problems. This is about addressing actual things rather than making up some cockamamie superstitions to hide it all and pretend it's not happening.
You don't do atheism in itself any benefits by sweeping the actions of a bad atheist under the
Yeah,
table.
you don't do anybody any good by doing that. And I want to get back to something you just said about the argument that there, if there's no God and no hell and no eternal punishment and no eternal reward, then morality doesn't mean anything, right? Then there's no basis for it. That is a completely stupid, backward view of criminal justice. Right. That is like saying that we have prisons in the United States in order to make crimes bad. That is just not the way it works. We have prisons to punish people who committed crimes, but they are not crimes because we have a prison we will send you to if you commit them. They are crimes because we look at those behaviors and we say, we don't want that. We don't want people doing that to other people in our society or to other people's property, right? Though that is why a thing is a crime, because of the actual effects that it has when you do it. And the punishment is secondary.
Right. The idea of morality is just a concept that goes to a situation that goes back even further than religions. Humans are social animals. In order for us to survive in the ancestral environment, we had to cooperate.
That's right.
Non-cooperation meant that several members of your tribe or your community might get killed and eaten by some other critter.
Yeah.
All right. If you didn't cooperate, people died. And,
right. I'm going to have to ask to quick go through the rest of this stuff, or we're not going to complete our list of. I mean, I've hardly started on the first page.
Yeah.
This is more crimes by various types of religionists, not just Christians, over the last week. Jurors found former Texas teacher's aide and ordained minister Vincent Eugene Turner guilty Wednesday of raping a girl at a center. Turner was accused of molesting at least 3 girls in August 2000 while working at the Northwest Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah, and that makes the crime even more. When you molest or rape a child, that you come to you for the purpose of what religion is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. These kids are coming to you to look to improve their lives and make better, and then you take advantage of that position and use it and rape some child. Yeah. And that's actually worse than the dirty old man down the street who's hiding in the closet.
Oh, but see, it's just, people thrown together, and, things happen. And they have no control of their...
You have absolute control.
Wait, yes, you do.
Bullshit.
And check out this story. For those who want to claim that these are just, sudden, uncontrollable crimes of passion, right? A Roman Catholic priest from Illinois and 2 Iowa residents from the Quad Cities are charged with making the date rape drug in a Davenport home.
Uh-huh.
Documents filed in U.S. District Court in Davenport name Jeffrey Windy, priest at St. Patrick's Church in Sheffield, Illinois, and St. Margaret Mary's in Wyanett, Illinois. GHB is a depressant that produces euphoric and hallucinatory states and has an alleged ability to release a growth hormone and stimulate muscle growth, the U.S. Justice Department says. It is called the date rape drug because several cases have documented the use of GHB to incapacitate women for the commission of sexual assault.
I actually saw something on this, and yes, you will. The woman has no memory of what happened to her. She's completely unconscious when this is going to effect.
And this is a priest involved.
Knock them out.
Actually, it was a couple of priests. They only sentenced one guy, or charged one guy in this story. Beijing. In a case that raised concerns with the Bush administration, a Chinese court Monday sentenced a Hong Kong man to 2 years in prison for smuggling thousands of Bibles into China. A court official said the court dropped the most serious charges against 38-year-old Li Yangqiang, who had faced the death penalty. It convicted him of illegal business operations and sentenced him to less than the maximum of 5 years for smuggling more than 30,000 Bibles for use by members of a fundamentalist sect called the Shouters. Okay, now, I'm all in favor of freedom of speech, right? I think this law is despicable, and, if we had laws like this in the United States, I would be against it, but it's a law. And once again, we got an instance of a religious person flaunting the law just to do what the hell he feels like.
Kind of like putting your proclamation of keeping Satan out of your city on the letterhead, violating an ordinance.
That's right. Johnstown, Pennsylvania. A judge has ordered the marketers behind television psychic Miss Cleo to stop calling customers who have not asked to be contacted and to stop pressuring people to pay for calls that they are disputing. Cambria County Judge Gerard Long signed a preliminary injunction last week against Psychic Readers Network and its in-house billing agent, Access Resource Services, according to the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office.
Are these folks based out of Pennsylvania, or does it say?
It says the companies are based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, but more than one state has placed charges against them. Okay. This is a way to help consumers until we're finished with the lawsuit, said a spokeswoman for the Attorney General's office. The lawsuit said customers were charged up to $4.99 a minute for psychic telephone readings that were advertised as free. And residents who filed complaints with the state said they were charged between $29 and $700 each. Now, yes, that's a telephone, that's a TV psychic, right? And a telephone psychic hotline. But all that stuff ultimately comes down to belief in these supernatural forces, right? That is religionism again, leading to being abused as a position of authority from which to commit crimes. January 28, Jehovah's Witnesses, whose world headquarters have stood in Brooklyn since 1909, are being blasted in a new sex suit claiming church elders turn a blind eye to pedophiles in their midst. So it's not just the Catholics. The suit was filed last week in Washington State Civil Court by a 23-year-old California woman who suffered years of abuse by a church elder who was convicted last August of molesting her. The suit claims victim Erica Rodriguez told church leaders about the sexual advances of Elder Manuel Belize, but was told not to say anything. There's that cover-up again. I know, they're telling me I gotta stop.
No, keep going.
They're telling me I'm running out of time. A youth pastor of the non-denominational A Place Called Hope was arrested this week and charged with molesting 2 boys who worshipped at the North Miami-Dade Charismatic Church. Monty Vaughn Benjamin, a popular 26-year-old pastor at the church, is accused of fondling the 2 boys during overnight visits to his home. The 2 boys, now 17 and 14, say they spent several nights at Benjamin's home between 1999 and 2001. The 14-year-old told police he was molested on several occasions. The second teen said he was molested 1 time. Benjamin was arrested Wednesday by the Miami-Dade Police Department's Sexual Crimes Bureau. He was charged with 4 counts of lewd and lascivious molestation of a child and 1 count of lewd and lascivious conduct. Neither Benjamin nor church officials returned phone messages late Friday. I left it out of the story, but the story that I'm quoting from here, the news story, they actually listed the guy's home address in the news story. They're pissed off about this dude down there. Let's see.
Now that may be liable because you put yourself in a position if there's some vigilante you want to commit some vigilante justice.
But it's public information.
Okay,
That's the other way.
I only mentioned it. I'm not going to give the address, but it is clear that they're pissed off about this guy. And that's not all. The pastor had been arrested before. In 1993, Benjamin pleaded no contest to armed burglary and aggravated assault with a firearm.
Oh, my Lanta.
Benjamin, who ministered... But wait, it gets better. Benjamin, who ministered to teens and kids in the congregation, often mentioned his brush with the law and subsequent redemption in inspirational rap sessions.
Oh, boy.
Dang.
Not only did he commit crimes,
He bragged about it.
he spun it as a inspirational message while on the side raping young boys. Okay, this is completely insane, but I think when you hear this story, you will realize that there is religious craziness underneath it. A federal no bail warrant has been issued for the self-styled commando who invaded the Bohemian Grove in Sonoma County over the weekend, searching for pagan owl worshippers that he believed were sacrificing children. Richard McCaslin, 37, of Carson City, Nevada, was arrested Sunday dressed in a hooded costume with Phantom Patriot written on the chest and carrying an arsenal of weapons. He admitted to investigators that he set fire to the Grove's mess hall. The no-bail warrant, filed in U.S. District Court in San Francisco this week, charges McCaslin with crossing state lines with the intent to commit arson. McCaslin said he planned the attack because he wanted to draw attention to the human sacrifices and other horrors he believes occur at the Monte Rio retreat. Charges that club insiders say are beyond ridiculous. Vic did point out that before the show that there was a human sacrifice case that came up in India in recent weeks. Human sacrifice can occur by various crazy religious groups, still dressing up as some kind of weird vigilante superhero and going after the demon worshippers that you think exist, is not really the sane way to respond. Salt Lake City, a jury awarded $290,000 to two women who said they were deceived by a fundamentalist church whose leaders promised to produce Jesus Christ in the flesh. The True and Living Church of Jesus Christ of the Saints of the Last Days was ordered Monday to pay $270,000 to Keziah Hancock and more than $20,000 to Cindy Stewart for fraud, breach of contract, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. You know, I think that every church should be charged with intentional infliction of emotional distress. As a condition of church membership, Hancock gave 67 acres of her farm and shares of water rights to the church for redistribution among members.
Wow.
Okay, I'm going to skip the rest of that story because we're running out of time.
Well, you know, there's another one, that woman who drowned her 5 children.
Yes.
Most recently.
Yes.
Andrea Yates.
Claiming that, Andrea Yates, she is claiming that she is possessed by the devil. And that that killing her kids was her punishment, not hers, not theirs.
Yeah, they're dead nonetheless.
Yeah, they're dead nonetheless. Who suffered the consequences? So she's welcoming the execution to rid her of the evil within.
She's insane.
Yes.
Judge forces school to accept girl. We covered this story before about the family that did not want their children their daughter to be vaccinated for religious reasons. Well, the church, the school district was saying, look, ma'am, you have older children that you did allow to be vaccinated, and you're a Catholic, and the Catholic Church does not say that vaccinations are against God, so we're not buying your claim. They have finally been forced to accept that girl into their school as a student.
Never mind that they could be putting other kids at risk.
We're told to end it.
Well, I need to say a couple of things before we end.
But I haven't had a chance to talk about Attorney General John Ashcroft's fear of calico cats.
That'll be next week.
To do that next week.
We'll do it next week.
Okay.
He's not just afraid of breasts, he's afraid of calico cats and considers them a sign of the devil.
Okay.
Go.
Just to let everybody know, did you mention the creation evolution debate?
Yes,
Okay.
I certainly did.
Also, I'd like to mention that for those of you who missed the rally or saw the rally, it will be broadcast on Channel 16 this Thursday at noon and 2 weeks from Thursday at noon.
That is public access
station
in 16
in
here in
Austin, you won't be able
Texas.
to see it, but hey, we can. Also, the one other announcement is that next week is my on-call work week, so I will not be with you that week.
We will have somebody else sitting
We'll
in
have
his,
somebody warming my chair.
All right, folks. Well, it's been a rollicking show today. Thank you very much for listening. Let's, if we can have our closing music, let's do that now, and we'll see you
Next week. Bye.